Good morning, everyone. Today is November 8th, and this is a regular work session for the Franklin County Fiscal Court. I invite everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hope everybody's doing well today. Going to invite come on forward. We have a nice blessing this morning. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just fine, as I hope everybody is. My name is Rich Green. I'm the Catholic representative on the Frankfort Interfaith Council. Thank you all for inviting us to participate in leading the prayers. I think at a time when there's such division in the country and around the world, we can at least all come together to pray. Beloved Creator, Provider, Sustainer, Source of all joy and goodness, we pause now to acknowledge your presence here among us. Thank you, Holy One. Thank you, Soul of our souls, for the tireless perseverance and selfless dedication of these, our Franklin County elected officials. Inspire each of them as they go about today's important work, tending to the needs of your people here in Franklin County. Enlighten, guide, strengthen, and console them as they go about the business of this day. We pray you keep them and each of us doing all you want us to do. And all God's people say, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in, and beautiful blessing this morning. Any public comments? See no public comments. I'm going to invite Mr. Duke Wilburn up to give us some road department updates. A lot going on down there, isn't there, Duke?
Yes, sir. Sure is.
Exciting.
Rising Suns completed the equipment barn demolition. All that material was recycled. As you can see there, putting it in them trailers and roll-offs. They had a surveying crew down yesterday, pinned out the buildings. So they're moving along pretty good. They're talking about starting on the equipment shed now. They've had a little hiccup on the salt barn, so they're going to move ahead with the equipment storage building. We had our trommel screener come in yesterday for the compost facility. Got it in. And it looks like they're going to pave Bodkins Lane today, or maybe working on it as we speak also. That's about all I got for today's court meeting, unless you got something for me.
I want to let the court know that Allie and I met with Buffalo Trace on site about 2 weeks ago about potentially building a structure, excuse me, up at the animal compost. You know, one of the things we're worried about is the equipment sitting out in the weather. In the lease, it says we can't build anything, but they were very supportive of us building something to put the trommel screener under and potentially the equipment under. So, and I think the leftover money from the grant will be able to pay for that. So that's something just to let you all be aware of that we're talking about now, to hopefully preserve the trommel screener and the big loader and everything that we have up on that site. So, any questions for Duke?
How big a hiccup is that on the sidewalk?
It's not a big setback. They're just waiting on some engineering plans for the canopy so they can order the steel. I didn't really get a timeline on that, but they want to go on and get started on something. So hopefully get a bucket in the ground here next couple of days.
Squire Tracy.
How about accessibility and all those things? You know, you run into problems in regards to as early as we are to say.
No, we're fine. We got that lot on Home Street, kind of working out of it. Got all of our vehicles down there, and it's working just fine right now. Right. Yeah, we're good. You're welcome.
Duke, thank you very much. Look forward to 2 weeks from now seeing how much progress has been done. It's exciting. Oh, I'm up next. Alrighty. First, I would like to congratulate everybody with the election yesterday. It's a big day, and for anybody to put their name on the ballot, no matter what party you're affiliated with, doesn't really matter. You know, you're making a commitment to your community, so want to congratulate everybody, especially our governor for second term. So we're extremely happy about that. I believe Andrew has some pictures. We went to the Rooks Dinner, Rotary Optimist Club in Kiwanis, had a chili fundraiser that was held at the VFW. It was a quick lunch. It was a busy day, but they had a great turnout. So we appreciate everything those committees do to help this community. I didn't give Andrew some pictures. I went to the drug court graduation. That's always a pretty cool thing for me, especially. 4 people graduated this year. You know, after talking to the judges, that's a pretty serious course to take, you know, over a couple years to go through that. So, but it seemed like everybody had their lives heading in the right direction. I want to thank L. Travis, and, you know, I know the Humane Society employs one of the ladies. So, you know, there's a lot of community partners that are helping these people. Also, I attended the new ribbon cutting for the J. Mattingly 1845 Distillery down on Riley Road. That's, you know, it was Bourbon 30 it started out, and then I believe they did some research, and one of the owners is related to J. Mattingly in 1845, so I think they switched gears. But if you have an opportunity to go by there, it's a great facility. It's a really cool place. We also held November 1st, we held a joint city-county finance committee meeting talking about E911, just kind of started the conversation. It went well. It was only about a 35-minute meeting. Everybody was cordial. We talked about fire services and rising costs and things like that, so we'll kind of circle back to that. There's some homework I think the city was going to work on a little bit, so we'll have a follow-up meeting. Yesterday there was a new bank ribbon cutting. I was unable to attend, but Mr. Deputy Jack Kennedy went in our place, and there he is there. So I believe that's on the west side of town next to McDonald's. Is that right, Jess? I think he was Limestone maybe before bank, so we appreciate them being here in Franklin County. They actually handed out some checks for the Salvation Army, Rosam, and the Sunshine Center, so we appreciate them jumping into the community like that. Tammy West has provided some information on the fire department grants that have been awarded. The Fire Commission awarded $90,000 for a multi-use training facility. Kentucky American also a $500 grant for the purchase of hazardous spill materials. And the Homeland Security awarded 7 new mobile data terminals to communicate with dispatch. So we appreciate all of Tammy's work and all the grants that are handed out. And then today, I want to remind everybody, is the 3rd annual Friendsgiving at Thornhill Education Center. It's an excellent way to kind of start the Thanksgiving season. It's to support ROSM. You can donate non-perishable goods and come for lunch. You know, they have looked around and talked to everybody in the community, and it seems like about every restaurant or any person that serves food has stepped up. There'll be plenty of food for everybody. It's a free event. You know, they're just trying to do good things in our community. And it's actually, they're working on they're supporting the Back Snack program. They'll be presenting a check. So I also want to thank Chamber of Commerce, Thornhill, for bringing the community together to celebrate. It's important that we take care of each other, and I think that's exactly what this event does. It kind of brings everybody together and helps the less fortunate. So I think it's a wonderful thing. So thank everybody that's involved, and hopefully we'll all be able to attend. Alrighty. Any questions on the minutes from the October 26th meeting? Okay.
Sorry, Judge.
You're
On tab 2, I guess the second page, the last paragraph, motion was actually to table the second reading to enable the court another course of action under separate motion, which was to hold a public hearing.
Okay,
We didn't actually proceed with anything.
you are correct.
I'll fix that.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yep.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you for catching that. It's a good catch. Anything else? Alrighty. I believe Sheriff is with us. Good morning, Sheriff. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Oh, wonderful.
We just have one surplus we're doing. They've been giving us really good trades lately, so we'll just keep doing it. Try to keep all our cars that we can, like, under warranty.
We appreciate that. Any questions for the Sheriff on surplus in this vehicle? Squire Sebastian.
I don't have a question on that. I just have a question in general to talk to us about. What is the size of the fleet?
52.
52 vehicles. So that's part of our emergency services fleet. He says, and that includes the cars that are at the schools?
Yes, 13.
Okay. And in those vehicles, by and large, we have, a computer, and there's a host of equipment, right? You've
Yes.
got dash cams and...
Cameras, computers, radars, cages, so, yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a handle on the size of the fleet, because we know there's a considerable amount of equipment that you need to run a professional sheriff's office outside of just vehicles. You know, there are body cams and vests, ballistic vests that get fitted to your body, and I'm just trying to get a sense of all those type things.
Sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. Be safe out there.
Thanks.
Yep. Next, I believe Laura's with us to talk about the next agenda item. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, how are you all?
Doing well, thank you.
So what we have is a contract for the MRT classes at the jail, and this is the same class we've had there for numerous years, it's just that the contract got lapsed.
Go ahead, Squire Sebastian.
Thanks for coming. When did the contract last, just to give us a sense of
I
Do you
believe
know?
renewal on that should have been July.
renewal
July
should be
1st, yes.
July? Okay. Similar terms in this agreement as to the last one? I didn't go
Yes.
back and pull anything.
Yeah,
Didn't have time.
it is, and it's the same company that's providing the classes too.
And similar terms?
Yes,
And similar amount of payment?
yes,
Okay. And still, it was a commissary item before?
it was and it still is. They
Continues
still
to be a
reimburse, they pay for the classes as well as the books that they use for it.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we all
Okay,
understood that.
yes.
Any other questions? Squire Tracy?
In regards to the fee, it looks like there's 3 classes a week.
If you break that down, it looks like there's 15 classes a month.
Correct.
Okay, so in a 4-week month, where are those other 3 classes fitting in?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you mean really a bit?
The way this contract is set up, it looks like 3 classes per week at $145 each.
Yes, and they pay that monthly.
Correct, but what I'm saying is if you divide that 145, you divide that 2175 by 145, it's 15 classes. So if you only got 4 weeks in a month, what other days are they teaching those leftover 3 classes?
Let me look at that. That might actually be a typo on it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
This next agenda item, I know we've talked about, we appreciate everything our code enforcement officer is doing. We are going to table this until the next meeting, and our county attorney will have it in our packets for us. Is that correct? Yeah, he's working on that. There was a couple hiccups in it, so we just want to make sure we get it right. Next agenda item, I believe, is Tammy. Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
Good. This is an authorization to submit a letter of intent and subsequently an application for the Division of Waters Section 319H grant program. Once the Forks of Elkhorn Sanitary Sewer Extension Project is constructed, the homeowners will be responsible for connecting to the sewer. This grant could fund up to 111 residential hookups. The match for this grant is 40%. The award for this would not occur until next fiscal year. It's a 5-year grant, and the match can be cash and in kind.
Questions for Tammy? Squire Sebastian.
In the second whereas clause, it talks about being within the watershed. I'm assuming that watershed is the Elkhorn Creek, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the third whereas clause, it talks about an application for an approval of grant funds impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county. What are those? Because it talks about, are those, you just said it's a five-year grant. So, I'm not sure what those specific obligations and responsibilities are, because this is all we got. So if there's some info that anybody can give us, it'd just be helpful to know what that is.
So the nature of the 319 grant is to improve water quality, but also educate the community or the public about the importance of clean water. The project will also require field days to show how the removal of septic systems within the flood hazard area and a transition over to public sewer saves the environment. So it's an educational type component. We did the exact same 319H grant on the Green Streets project. That was specific to stormwater. This project is specific to sanitary sewer.
So part of the obligations would be for an education arm of it and time, expenses
Yes.
incurred with that.
Water testing, things of that nature.
Squire Dykes.
I'm curious, can you give me some examples of what in-kind would be for this?
Field days during
Just the
construction and
education
after
piece.
construction is part of the education piece. So we would invite other communities and members of the public to these field days for us to show them how we do testing on water quality, show them that, how we're capping off the sewer lateral fields that can locate or capping off straight pipes to the creek, and how straight pipes are not good for the environment, things of that nature, just to let people know what should do.
Squire Tanner.
Is there an ordinance in the county that requires homeowners to attach to a sewer if it's available?
Yes.
Yes.
So immediately, there's no time frame, just whenever it's available, they have to attach?
Correct. And that's enforced in the Planning and Building Code Department.
Squire Sebastian.
So does this resolution remove, I guess, any communication and action by the court for any future steps in anything related to sanitary sewer line connection, I guess, relating to the Forks of the Elkhorn? If there's an extension project, I'm just not sure. I'm just asking if we approve this today, will we never hear about it again?
So there are limited funds in the grant, obviously, because it's a statewide competitive grant. And so there are several items that, responsibilities that fall on the homeowner that this grant could provide relief for. City of Frankfort has a $1,000 tap-on fee, so depending on the funds, it can be applied to that. There's also requirements for homeowners to make improvements to the electrical panel. Also requirements that they hire a plumber to make a connection to the new wet well where the pump goes. So there's several things that, depending on the amount of funding that's received, the court would need to decide, okay, we're going to provide relief to homeowners on item X.
So by approving this today, items will come back to the court. This isn't just a blanket approval for everything going forward on this, and
Yes.
we'll never hear about it again.
There will be documents that need to be executed through this program, because ultimately it's a federal grant and it's administered by the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Squire Wisman.
Robert, can you talk about the scope of this a little bit? We've had some minimal conversation as a court about expanding sewers out that direction quite a while back. Do we have any kind of plan? What is the scope of the area that we're looking at for the grant application? There's many priority areas throughout our community to expand sewers to. I feel like we've not had an agreement amongst this court, or at least a broader conversation about this is the one area, and could you elaborate on the potential for future grant funding for this avenue particularly? If we're awarded this, does that preclude us from any future obligations?
Okay, so answer your second question first. No, it would not preclude us. We're going with the 319 on this because it is in a watershed, which is the basis of the 319. It's also in a special flood hazard area, which opens us up to other grant opportunities in those pools of money. Okay. To answer your first question, yes, there is a plan. We do have a project area. We have two alternatives. One is to extend sanitary sewer from the city's Raven Crest pump station on US 460 down to the Forks of Elkhorn and terminating at the bridge. We have a number of potential customers, both residential and non-residential counts, along with cost estimates for construction. Alternate 2 would extend that project from the bridge onto the entirety of North Scruggs Lane. It would also capture all the spaces in the campground and residences along North Scruggs Lane. So we have a map that goes with it. A year or two ago, I did submit a project profile to the WRIS portal for KIA funding. And so we are pursuing that as a Fund B project currently. So the project narrative is also part of that project profile.
A follow-up, if I can. We've already heard that if we expand, we're going to create a burden and a requirement on properties to attach to infrastructure that we build out. We have an area that has functioned for its entirety with their own septic fields and systems. I'm wondering if part of this project needs to be a consideration for a sort of phased-in or an exclusionary clause that would allow anyone that has an existing facility, a sewer facility, that they can maintain and keep that if they want to. Unless we're able to provide some financial assistance for upgrades and tap-on fees. I know that sewer tap-on fee for the city is always a burden for a lot of people or a hurdle to get over.
So I'm not aware of any, there are no exclusions within the county ordinance. And then Division Water has a requirement specific to owners of package plants that if there's public sewer within, I think it's 500 feet, then they will not renew that package plant permit. So, that will, depending on the renewal time of their plan, I think it's every 5-year cycle. They would have up until that time to make provisions to connect. So unless the court wants to amend their ordinance to provide exclusions, there are none that I'm aware of. historically, specifically to the Chokeville Phase 1 and 2 sanitary sewer extension project that was funded by the Fiscal Court via grants. Assistance was provided to those homes that were identified as low to moderate income, in which the county paid tap-on fees, but the homeowners did have to pay for their upgrade their electric service and the plumber to connect from the house line to the wet well. So, once again, that's why we were requesting to apply for this grant, to see what opportunities we have to offset those costs as much as possible.
Squire Tanner.
Well, there's a couple of them now, but one, it probably has nothing to do with this grant, but you mentioned straight pipes. Do we have very many or any straight pipes in this county?
Yes, sir, we have many.
Really? They're running right in the Elkhorn Creek? Isn't that illegal now?
Yes, sir.
So whose job is that to enforce that?
Environmental protection at the Division of Water, also the federal EPA, Health Department.
Nobody does?
Well, it's difficult. You gotta find them first. You gotta be wading in the
You gotta
creek
find
or
them.
in the river, or things of that nature. Code enforcement and I are currently working a case of what we believe to be an illegal discharge into the creek for a structure that's not allowed to be inhabited. So we nip away at them as we can when we find them. We are field appointment scheduled with the environmental specialist at the health department to address this one that we discovered.
It's a statement more than a question, but maybe for information that if you ever wanted to change the ordinance, when I was lobbying, we worked very long time trying to set up a statewide law that required everybody to attach to a sewer line if it was available, which it doesn't exist. State law doesn't exist or didn't then. And we if somebody just built a house, they had, I don't know, we picked the years, 3 or 4 or 5 years to hook up, because they just put in a sewer septic tank and they had to recover their money, but that was the only exception it was. But it didn't pass, so we tried.
Squire, I will say, when I built something last, the health department's tied in with the electric now, so they wouldn't give us our electric until our septic tank was completely finished, installed, and approved.
That's correct.
There's no electric, right? So, I mean, if people go through the process the right way.
Well, that was, rather than require them to attach to the sewer line, it was just put in, if they had just put in a septic tank without them so many years to recover that
Okay,
cost.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Go ahead, Squire.
I'm the one that's gonna get these calls, so I wanna make sure that I understand what's happening here. This seems, I know so little about this. Number one, I wanna understand what's gonna happen if somebody cannot afford this. What happens if somebody just cannot afford these fees?
Well, if they violate the county ordinance of mandatory connection, then charges are filed with the county attorney's office.
That's why I'm saying if they have an existing sewer system of their own, which many of the houses in this area do.
Absolutely they do.
I really think we need to, we're encroaching upon a new service area for future development ideally, but we need an exemption to be able to allow especially the rural properties that have existing systems, if they're functional and can be maintained that way, to exempt them from the mandatory tax on.
Okay, well, my second question is, with this grant, I want to make sure that I understand
Delays and.
that this will come back to us and we will get to decide how we utilize this. And that we
Yes.
could utilize this for low to moderate income families, and we could help with this so that they're not, I know a lot of these people and I know what their income is, and I know that this would be a hardship, a serious hardship. So I just want to make sure that I understand, because I know as soon as I leave here, I'm getting these phone calls.
Sure, and during the Chokeville Phase 1 and 2 project, the Fiscal Court also recognized this situation of, the financial burden they could place on homeowners who aren't prepared for this, because they didn't have a sewer bill. Now they
Right.
not only will have a sewer bill, but now they have electrical and plumbing and tap-on fee and everything that goes with it. So, an additional cost to their electric service, because they'll be running a sewer pump So that's why the court has always done their best to offset as much cost to a property owner as possible. It's very important in order to get a successful project. Since you do have a regulation that says if we put a sewer in, you have to connect. So that's why these grants are so important.
Maybe you said this, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to process all of this, something I just don't know much about. How long do they have, if we don't have the money to cover all of their costs and they still have some significant costs, how long do they have to pay for all of this?
I'm not aware of any time frame in the ordinance, so it's mandatory upon notification by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Tracy.
Robert, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Knowing the importance of Elkhorn Creek and the Kentucky River, allowing an exemption would almost defeat the purpose.
Exactly.
So, believe me, I got a lot of my district that sits on Elkhorn Creek and the Kentucky River. If you give an exemption, it's almost, why are we doing it?
True.
All you have to do is drive the country roads and you see lots that are like 1/10 of an acre and a home sitting on it, and it's right on the creek, or it's right on the river.
And there's no possible way for a septic
It doesn't
field
take a rocket scientist to figure out where it's going.
Right.
But if we go to their door and say, hey, it's gonna cost you X to get tapped on, or you can be exempt, what do you think they're gonna do?
Correct.
So an exemption is just going to defeat the purpose.
Squire Blackburn.
Robert, you might help me understand a little better. When you filed the application with Kia, don't they, in the, I guess, design or planning stage of it, they consider the amount of homes, they consider the median income on those particular homes?
In the initial submittal, they did not request homeowner income status. That's not part of it. They're more concerned with the number of homes served, how they're currently being served, how this will improve the environment, and how much the project costs. That's what they're interested in. They want as many homes served as possible, in the shortest amount of distance. Those get a better look at it from the board. It's not as though we're extending out 4 miles of sanitary sewer to pick up 6 homes.
Right.
So density in a small area is critical. And once again, this being in a special flood hazard area where you've got 2 creeks that join another creek, and they're all in some form of fashion of waste discharge, many of those properties down there don't even know where their septic field is, or if they even have one. So that's the extreme importance of this. Plus, it's a put-in for a lot of kayakers. And so you're putting in an area
With that being said, does the health department allow septic systems being put in flood-sensitive areas now?
No, sir, they don't allow that anymore, to my understanding. They frown upon it as much as they can, and tell them, say no.
Squire Tracy.
Robert, I know this is a new grant opportunity, but I guess sanitary sewers in this area have been discussed back to Representative Hancock's days, and ultimately have been on the books since that time as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bartender.
I guess this may be out of order, but could we take time sometime in the future to review that ordinance on the hookup, sewer hookup? Because I don't know how long it's been, but I don't know when it was drafted or what it says. But the future is going to require more and more sewer development in the counties, maybe small lines, pump, whatever. And I don't know how long it'll take, but it's been under consideration many times. And if we're going to try to protect it, we need to look at that ordinance, and if it needs to be upgraded to be modern, then we need to do that, if that's the right word, or we need to consider it.
I would strongly encourage that the court review that ordinance. There are revisions that I have proposed from many years back that never made it to court that will be helpful for the administration, as well as the public to have a better understanding. There are some gray areas in there that I'd like to clean up, so I would like to bring that back before the court.
Well, back up what Squire Tracy said, that creek's important to this community.
Absolutely
And we
it is.
certainly don't need to pollute it any more than it already is.
Right.
We need to clean it up best we can.
I agree. I just want to make sure that we're not, throwing some big cost onto people that cannot afford it. I want that water to be clean too. I swim in it, I kayak in it. I don't want to be swimming in, garbage either. But we also need to be thoughtful about how we do this and make sure that people can, there are people out there that just absolutely cannot afford this. So we need to think about that. So I think reading over that and hearing what you think, could be changed about it would be really, really helpful for me.
Very good. I do want to mention that if this project is successful, it would become part of the city of Frankfurt's collection system and therefore maintained by the city of Frankfurt. That doesn't mean the laterals or the individual grinder pumps for each home, but anything else within that system would be maintained by the city of Frankfurt.
Squire Wisman.
Robert, you said up to 111 residential hookups is in the scope of which phase? You offer two phases that have, one seems expanded quite a bit more than the other.
So phase one has 74 residences, a totaling of 17 properties. There's a large mobile home park down there that accounts for a lot of that. Okay. And then phase two, it would encompass, up 1 and 2 combined, be 111 residences, 110 RV spaces, and 43 properties, along with 6 acres of commercial property.
So the question is begged then, has the city said that they have the capacity at the existing pump station up the road?
At this time, they do not. So the cost estimates include improvements to the Ravencrest pump station, all right? And then the Ravencrest pump station pumps to the Silver Lake pump station, in which the court has already approved easements for the city to construct a new Silver Lake pump station on Lakeview Park. So with this project and improvements to Ravencrest, there will be capacity from there on.
Following that question, we're hearing a number of projects in the community ongoing at this time, and most of them being impacted by the level of capacity that the city has available. The city's capacity is changing a little bit because Buffalo Trace is building their own station that's expanding their capacity, right? But I suppose my thought process is more of being cognizant of what areas we are providing sewer to, where we're looking to expand. I really want us to think as a community, and this is just generally going into some more statements, about where we're going to expand sewers to in the future in the county. Development follows sewers. It's a known thing that we need to consider, especially when we provide something along a sensitive area like the Elkhorn Creek. Now, this is already a fairly developed area. I would not be in favor of hopping that creek. I think that is a natural stopping terminus for sewers for that area of the county. But I'm wondering, maybe more so, I met with the sewer department, not sewer department, our health department sewer representative back like in February. We were discussing a number of things, and in my mind, our county operates currently in a manner that is either sewers or some sort of 1970s idea of sewer, independent sewer facilities for homes. I think we have a lot of legwork to do to make sure we're offering the best opportunities and the best health and quality to all of our citizens countywide. That means some strategic reviews of our current ordinances and some of the systems that we allow, because there's new and updated technologies all the time in this field that currently we don't really look at all. That said, I want to clarify that I was talking about exemptions, but only in terms of people or parcels that have systems that are in place that are to code that have been operating in functional to code, have been permitted, all those kinds of things. Of course, we know all over this community there are tiny parcels that have no capacity for sewer additions or septic systems. And that's not what I'm talking about. I want to clean up the streams in the county overall, and I've talked multiple times in this court about we need to start thinking about a larger countywide plan that we can find assistance programs for all kinds of people to do other things other than tap onto sewers and expand those countywide, because that's never going to be a realistic proposal. So I'd like us to, as a court, start thinking maybe immediately about, maybe this is a priority, this area is a priority for some. It has been in discussion for a very long time. But, I'd like to see us applying for this grant simultaneously to help those low-income homeowners that have straight-line pipes and have no financial options to do anything else. So we can move forward with this one, but, my druthers would have been, particularly for my district, to really start focusing on that area and cleaning up those things that are going directly into the watershed already than maybe an area that already has some sewer capacity on their own. Thanks.
So, in terms of extensions, sanitary sewer extensions into the county, they arise in a couple of different ways. One is that the health department actually sends the county a letter based on their assessment saying, we would like for this area to be sewered. Now, these extensions that the county is considering from an overall perspective are all areas that are already developed, that either have known failures of existing systems or the density is such that it necessitates public sewage. Of those projects, they all are on the east side of the county, which is the area in which Frankfort Sewer Department has capacity. The west side is where there are capacity issues that the city is working on. And then also projects that we recognize, such as Forks of Elkhorn, small lots, individual systems, floodplains, those are target areas that, in today's world, that area wouldn't develop. The regulations just wouldn't allow it. Not in the manner that it does, because, you've got, as Squire Sebastian said, you've got some lots that are quarter acre. The health department requires an acre and a half. And so the environmental division of the health department is state regulated, so they're administering state law. So any changes to that have to come from the hill behind us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to say that once we submit the letter of intent, the basin coordinator will contact us about our project. They may tell us, submit for 20 residences, and then next year we apply for 20 more, and the next year we apply for 20 more. I mean, that's a possibility. So as you all are talking about reviewing the ordinance, just keep that in mind.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, I think you all have another agenda item, don't you?
Yes. The next item is an authorization to apply for the Kentucky Department for Local Government's grant program to request match funds for the FEMA Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant and the BRIC grant that you all approved last court meeting. House Bill 9 is an act which was enacted by the General Assembly during the regular session in 23 and signed by the governor in April of 23. The act relates to economic relief and support for priority communities in the Commonwealth, which Franklin County is one. The grant program is intended to enable priority communities to access federal funding for projects that are in the public interest and for a public purpose by supporting a local government's non-federal match requirement.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. This is for the Slickway project, right? Okay, I just want everybody to understand
and
this.
then also the flood mitigation assistance grant that was previously approved. I'm not sure when.
Yes, so this item before you is to cover the local match.
The local match
Yes.
for that project. All right.
Correct.
Thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
and really thank you.
Yeah. The whole court thanks you on this one.
Fingers crossed, this project has been
Yeah.
was initiated 20 years ago.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Chief Brewer is up next. Morning, Chief.
Morning.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. Hope everyone else is doing well this morning. This is just the second reading the ordinance change for the holidays related to the fire department personnel who work 24, 48 shifts. Question?
Squire Sebastian.
I do. Thank you, Judge. And Chief, this is not necessarily a question, this is just a clarification point. In the second whereas clause, this says that the judge established an administrative code committee. That should be Administrative Services Committee.
Correct.
There's no administrative code committee. I want the court to be very clear on that. Because the next three items state that.
Yep. Claire, do you get those changes?
I'll fix it.
Yep. Squire
That's just
Tracy.
the main thing.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Squire Tracy.
Chief, real quick question.
Mike's, please. Thank you.
Quick question. So ultimately, I know in the past, it's always been if the courthouse is closed on Friday, Monday, those are the holidays that are observed. So
Correct.
actually, if Christmas was on Saturday or Sunday, you didn't work a Friday or Monday, you weren't receiving the holiday pay, correct?
Correct.
So with this new change, if the courthouse is closed on Friday and Monday, those individuals will continue to work as scheduled. The holiday falls on a Saturday, they will receive the holiday pay, but the Friday and Monday that the county per se recognizes the holiday, those days won't.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's why that language is added in there about
Okay.
not increasing or decreasing
I got
the number of holidays.
I got you. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief? All right, Chief, thank you. All right, this next agenda item is something we talked about in one of the committees. Anybody from the committee would like to talk about? I think the next two, I believe, what we had talked about. So the first one is being able to suspend the rules if need be by the court if something were to happen. Squire Blackburn.
Would you or somebody like to make an example so I think the public could better understand this?
Well, you could, if you needed to make an immediate appointment to a board or commission that was open and you had no delay, you could suspend the rules and do that pretty quickly. There might be some things that have been left out. You could suspend the rules and address those issues immediately. You never know when you might need to change parliamentary procedure. You could, if you needed to. That could be a rule that you could change also. And that's actually in the Warren County Code of Ethics that we've been reviewing, looking at. And you never know when something that's going to come up that's prohibited in a code that was written years ago, and you can suspend those rules and move forward.
A primary example would have been in the last court when the court wanted to purchase the great all. We were hampered because of the the purchase authority. And there was a timing issue there. And so when they came back to us, the road department, the sale had already ended and we missed out on opportunity to purchase a great all.
That's a very good example.
Yeah, and just to make sure everybody realizes, I mean, it does take 5 votes. So, I mean, it would come before this body, so to both of their Squire's points there, I mean, it would be something that basically we all agree on that we have to do for a certain reason.
I also just make note that there's a technical correction that needs to happen in this.
Okay.
Services.
It is not the Administrative Code Committee.
Yeah.
I just
Services
bring that
Committee.
up for
Yep.
this one and the
No,
next one.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Squire.
Can we ask our county attorney how this complies with state law and does we see any issues at all?
Good question, Squire.
I can go and research the statutes and get back to you all.
You haven't already? Okay. I'd like to verify that we are complying before we take action, but this is the first reading.
All right, the next one. For the employee evaluations. This is
basically just how the evaluations will be done, and I think there's dates put on them. Squire Tracy?
I guess this would be for HR. Can you give us an example in regards to who is actually, ultimately, most departments you know, but like, let's say the fire department, for example. Is the chief actually doing the fireman's evaluations, or is it the immediate supervisor, and then there's, and so forth, just due to that quote-unquote chain of command type stuff?
The fire chief actually does the admins, but the battalion chief does their crew. There's 3 battalion chiefs of their crew, so the 3 battalion chiefs does the people underneath them. The fire chief does battalion chiefs, the mechanic, administrative assistant, and the assistant chief. Is that correct? Correct.
Okay, and then would Lieutenant Chief, I get Other, would he do the battalion chiefs, and then your?
Typically, I'll do the assistant chief, the administrative assistant, the mechanic. The assistant chief goes directly over the battalion chiefs, and the battalion chiefs supervise the entire crew, so they do the personnel on their crews, with feedback from their officers on those, at those stations.
Okay, good. And then I would assume other departments are pretty simple if you're really thinking, but I guess anybody that's in the supervisor role that's not the director is doing evaluations, and then the director would follow up and do the supervisors.
Yes, the director, actually the director does, like Robert would do his entire department, including his assistant. Ben, I'll just use that for an example. He'd go do his department. Jack and the judge will do anybody under their jurisdiction, like the road supervisor, HR, Robert, Charlie Lewis, the directors.
So like you referenced road department, so the foremans, the road foremans would do the guys, and then the assistant foreman would do the foremans?
No, I don't believe so. Make sure, I believe the road supervisor does all of them. Is that correct?
Right. Is he with them day to day? I mean, ultimately, the road foremans are just kind of that break for the employees. That's who's out with those guys. It just seems like it probably.
I'll get the input from them.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Squire Westman?
Judge, I was wondering if the committee that reviewed this, and maybe HR can just kind of walk me through the language change a little bit better here, so we're fully versed in what's changing. As it reads, the proposed language has the department head and the county judge executive reviewing the performance of all the county employees.
What that
The county judge will be in all of it. It doesn't say county judge or designee, it's the county judge and the department heads, right?
Yes, the county judge will sit with the department heads and do an overall of their department, how they're doing, and then the judge will come back in court and give a brief overall of each department. That's why the judge would be working with the department head. The department head will talk to the judge about their goals, what they've accomplished, and all that stuff.
And then upon that performance evaluation, we have that the employee has 5 days to sign that performance evaluation or to rebut and request a secondary evaluation, and they do so in writing. We don't really specify, it doesn't seem to me, in 2 instances, where that appeal, if you will, should go to. Is that the county judge executive or HR?
Whomever does the evaluation. Say, for example, a park employee, Charlie does an evaluation on a park employee. The park employee does not, they rebuttal it. Okay, they rebuttal it to the department head first. If they can't make a determination, then it would go to the county judge.
I'm wondering if there should be language added that just says requested by writing by the employee, but it doesn't specify to who, to their direct superior.
It does too.
Doesn't
It
say
says
that.
in here, it goes to the supervisor.
Yes, it's in C.
And return it to the supervisor. That's
what it
correct.
says.
Or request a meeting with the county judge executive or
That's
the
the section I'm
designee.
talking about. Okay.
That last, is that good?
What happens if an employee doesn't sign? I'm wondering, there doesn't say anything about a recourse. They either have the option to request the hearing, if you will, or the review, or they don't sign. what happens in that instance? It doesn't specify that.
At the bottom of the evaluation, it says, say, if I'm the employee, it says, I agree with the evaluation, and I'll sign it. If the employee, there's also a mark on there, I do not agree with the evaluation. The employee can put the remarks on it, and then we can meet with the county judge along with myself, to see what the discrepancy is.
Cora Tracy.
Thank you.
Betty Jo, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a committee, if ultimately, let's say, an employee doesn't agree, and we've had this happen, I think, one time in the last 8 or 9 years.
Yes.
It ultimately comes to a committee that's made up of,
It's the executive committee.
that's,
Yes.
it's like 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6.
Based on years, even or
Yes.
odd.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so there are,
Yes.
Yes,
So,
Systems in place.
Yes.
so for instance, if the employee doesn't agree, the department head doesn't agree, and the county judge doesn't agree, the employee can file a grievance, and then the grievance would go to the executive committee of those. It's in there in the code of like 1 and 2, yes.
just wanted to make sure that,
Yes.
because I think maybe that's what he was.
Oh, okay,
was
thank
looking
you.
for.
Just wanting for any employees that maybe haven't really got to, then we walk through this for everyone so that it's clear to understand the process.
And there was a couple of changes. There wasn't a whole lot of changes in here, actually. Basically, the committee changed the interim due between June 1 through August 30th, because those dates was really confusing in the admin code. So that was changed. Also, there was a performance evaluation training that the committee decided that each department had needed training. That was added in there. Can the committee members think of anything else? That's the things that I had underlined.
The big one is that it'll be presented to the fiscal court no later than May 1st. Didn't
Yeah,
have anything
before.
about that before?
So before, it was suggested in the code that there would be a report given to the court. This states when it will be done. The rationale for that was prior to the budget, so that as we discussed raises across the board and how the departments function, that can be factored into that.
Thank you, Betty Jo. All right, next agenda item, I'm going to turn it over to our county attorney. Morning, Max, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
And this is to, I guess you'd say, clean up the record. Previously on October 11th, 2023, the Franklin County Fiscal Court, consisting of 7 members, approved a resolution to deny the zoning map change by a vote of 3-2. KRS Chapter 100, actually 100-211, 2I requires a majority of the entire fiscal court to override the planning commission's recommendation, stating unless a majority of the entire fiscal court votes to override the planning commission's recommendation, the zone map amendment shall be deemed to have passed by operation of law. And so this is in order to clean up what occurred back at that October 11th fiscal court hearing date.
Thank you.
Question for the county attorney, this has to be an ordinance, it just can't be a resolution stating that and put it in the record?
Actually, this is not going to be by ordinance. This is just going to be a note to the record to make sure everything's clear. I know what the
It says
agenda item had it
ordinance
set
affirmative.
forth as an ordinance, but it cannot be an ordinance. But
This is
procedurally.
written as an ordinance, so it has to be an ordinance?
no, it's not going to, that was a note we're adding to the record for the minutes in order to clean up what actually occurred. So there won't be a vote on an ordinance today.
So we're not first reading the ordinance today?
Correct, because this was
That's very
done,
confusing to me, I'm sorry.
this was done by operation of law. So it's not a situation that requires.
So what are we gonna vote on number 11?
There will be no
Nothing?
vote on that.
Okay.
County attorney read it, so it's in the record now.
That's fine, that's what I thought. I
Legally
didn't know
have to
why
do.
we passed an ordinance.
Yep. Squire Sebastian.
Just a quick question for the county attorney, thank you both. Should this wording on our agenda be cleaned up where it does say an ordinance affirming, and that whatever the appropriate terminology so that the record correctly reflects that, if we ever have to go back and look at this item again, everything is preserved appropriately? Can we do that?
Yes, we can do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, next agenda item, I believe, Amy, you're up. I believe Chief Brewer is going to come up also. This is an important thing for us. I think this has to do with all emergency services that Franklin County provides. I think we can all attest to all the numbers are going up and things are becoming more expensive, especially post-pandemic. So we need to pay for them because we don't want to lose any of our services. So Amy and the chief, I believe, are going to speak on this for a minute. Good morning.
Good morning. This proposal is the first reading that will amend our current, we call it the insurance premium tax. It's increasing that rate from 6% to 9%, and it's also adding the category of health. We have years ago earmarked these revenues to go towards our fire fund. Just to give you a little information of previous year, the revenues for the fire fund, 2.5 million. The expenses were 6.2 million. So you can see the difference there. This proposal will increase, this is an estimate of revenues by 1.2 million. It's important to remember that what we're doing right now will not affect this current budget year. This increase will go into effect on July 1 of '24. We won't see the revenues just because of insurance billing until the end of that budget year, '25.
Chief, would you like to, before we take questions, Squire, I'm going to let Chief speak a little bit because obviously this has a lot to do with the fire department.
Yeah, I was just kind of asked to give a summary of the budget of the fire department, how it's spent, and what that money goes towards. So the fire department has a total between shift personnel and administrative staff, 55 employees. About 90% of our budget goes to pay the benefits and salaries for those employees. That's the personnel that keep all the stations operational. We have 6 fire stations located throughout the different districts of the county. Some of those are in the neighborhood of 30 years old, so they do require some maintenance. Every station has a frontline engine or pumper, except for Chenault Road, it has the frontline ladder truck because it's placed in the industrial park. We also, due to the nature of the county and the rural areas, we have 2 tankers that we operate to shuttle water for the areas within the districts that do not have substantial water for firefighting suppression. We also operate a rescue truck that responds to motor vehicle accidents, and that's the battalion chief's vehicle. They also respond to all types of fires as well, or any significant type of event such as hazmats. Have a couple of reserve apparatus just to be able to rotate into our schedules just in case we have one that goes down. These stations are operated 24/7. It's also important to keep these frontline apparatus on a rotational schedule. As apparatus get older, start aging, you'll run into issues where they just become less reliable and you're starting to spend a lot more money on the maintenance costs. We have 2020, we replaced a ladder truck, so it's a newer truck. And trucks are, especially since COVID, we've seen through the budget process of ordering another truck. Trucks are becoming expensive. So there's been a substantial increase there. So just for the types of response that we do, obviously we do fire response, motor vehicle accidents, hazmat. The entire department's trained to be hazmat technicians. We do various types of rescues that we have specialized equipment and all the training for within the department. We also do first response for medical emergencies within the county. Get there, make the initial patient assessment, stabilize and treat the patient until the ambulance can get there to do the transport. For the fire responses, we have a wide range of areas that go everything from industrial all the way to wildland. So that's another big reason we have to have a wide range of equipment to be able to handle all those types of fire response. We have a lot of rural area that encompasses wildland fires throughout the years. We've been on a schedule to replace our brush trucks. We've got 5 of those replaced over the last few years. Still have 1 more to go that we're looking to replace this year, and we'll have all those up and going. Some more of the operational costs for the department. Equipment is a big one. Our structural firefighting gear costs about $3,500 to outfit a firefighter. That's got a 10-year service life, and after 10 years it has to be recycled. If it lasts 10 years, depending on what stations you're at, if you're at a little bit busier stations or if you have some significant calls, then we can run into issues where it may not make it 10 years. And then we also have the standard everyday tools, the fire hose, everything we use, all this stuff. Like I say, the costs have went up since COVID, obviously. And then other things that the department does, we are required to get a minimum of 100 hours of training annually through the Fire Commission. We always try to attend all these public events, Picks Mill Day, Ball Mound Festivals, any kind of public events where we can go out and engage and try to communicate, educate the public, try to make them a little safer as much as possible. We also have programs where we do community outreach for smoke alarm installs. We partner with the Red Cross on that. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. I know it looks like a big number, but at the end of the day, the budget gets stretched pretty thin for the fire department. But that's just a brief overview of our expenses, and if there's any questions.
Squire Blackburn, I believe you had a question or a statement.
I believe this question is more for Amy. You had mentioned that in the past, the insurance premium fund was allocated towards fire. With the addition of health on the tax and insurance premiums, would this fall more in line with maybe emergency services, or I don't want to hem this into one spot. You know what I'm saying? How much has E911 gone up? How much has ambulance service gone up that we have with the city every year? I think some of those costs could be addressed with this. I'm not a big fan of the insurance premium tax. I know it's a pass-through. It's imposed on insurance companies, but the bottom line is the people who pay the premiums, it's passed on to them. With that being said, what is it, 600,000 a year, our ambulance service has gone up?
Yeah, that's roughly.
So that's a significant amount, and we have no other revenue to make it happen. So I just wanted to be clear, and maybe you could help me out on that, is this insurance premium tax going to be directed specifically for fire services?
It is, and I did that simply because that's what we did before. Something important to remember, by doing that, you're freeing up we're still going to have funds allocated from the general fund to cover the fire fund. So
We'll still need funds from the general fund to cover the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're decreasing that need.
Right.
Which frees up money for those other expenses.
I understand. That makes sense. Thank you.
Squire Sebastian. Sorry, do you have a question?
No.
No, I'm sorry. I thought I saw your hand up.
But
I
was
apologize.
just- It's okay, thank you, Judge.
Just waving at me?
Hey. And I think, Chief, while you're here, as I understood it from an Emergency Services Committee meeting, there was a discussion about needing a new apparatus here, a couple of new apparatuses in the next maybe foreseeable future, 2 to 4 years. Can you talk about those and the expenses for those and the long wait time and just kind of the scenario around that? Because we heard a little report earlier from the sheriff about the number of vehicles that they have to operate the professional law enforcement aspect of what the sheriff's office does. And that's countywide, 52,000 people, and it covers, 400 plus road miles across our county. To do that takes a number of vehicles. You've talked a little bit about the wide range of services that our professional fire service performs, everything from the rural aspect to, the needs of the industrial park. There are a variety of apparatus, and we know we're coming to the end of the life on some that are extremely expensive, as the court over the past 2 years has been trying to put money into new ladder truck, new brush trucks. Can you help us with some of the other expense of what's getting ready to be needed?
Yes, we
Thank you.
currently have one truck that's on order to replace one of our pumpers. It should be here around next September. That truck cost about $785,000. It went through this past budget process. And then we're also, 2027, we have another truck that's going to be aging out that we want to get a recycle schedule for. So currently, If you do a custom order on a truck right now, custom build, you're looking at, most of them are saying 2 to 3 year build times. That's why we're trying to plan this out, separate these expenses a little bit. And the cost, since COVID on those has drastically increased that price, so.
And that truck would be in the neighborhood?
That truck will be identical to the one that we just ordered, so it'll be in the same neighborhood of what we just ordered.
So that'll be at least north of $1.5 million in a short span of time for two additional vehicles. So we've already got $1 million fire truck, we've replaced 5 brush trucks, and they were 40,000 apiece?
Roughly 40, low
Okay,
40s.
so let's say that, we still have 1 to go, and then we have 2 trucks that are going to be north of $1.5 million. So you can see right away just the level of on-the-road equipment outside of the other things that you've talked about, the expense of running the professional fire service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Amy. We appreciate you guys. Oh, I'm sorry, Squire Wilson.
It's slightly off subject, but a week ago, I saw a fire truck being towed down the highway by a wrecker. Was that yours, ours?
We do have one that was out getting some engine work done. It's a reserve apparatus, it's the reserve ladder that we have, but it's
It
still.
was a reserve truck?
Yes.
Do we have, what was wrong with it again?
It needs engine rebuild.
So that's not free either.
No, it's not. We have a.
Is
we
that,
have a
it's not
line.
under warranty, I'm sure, if it's.
No, unfortunately, it's not. We do have a line for maintenance for our apparatus fleet. Obviously, you take those big motors, and they're expensive to work on, unfortunately.
But it is a reserve vehicle.
It is
It's
reserve,
not on
but it's
line.
it's a reserve ladder truck, which is used on a regular basis. If the new ladder truck has to come out to be serviced, or if it has an issue, then we can sit that one in the industrial park. So it's very vital to keep that truck within the fleet.
Squire Wisman.
Yeah, Amy, if you could maybe just elaborate on the changes in the categories, causality, liability, and health.
So those are all of the categories that we can collect the insurance premium tax. And I don't know why health was not part of our ordinance. But just sort of doing some research, most do include, I looked at all the counties in the state, and most that do collect the insurance premium tax also include the health. I couldn't find a reason that we didn't do it, so I went ahead and put that in there.
Do you know effectually the amount of the 1.2 in additional revenues is health?
I don't. There's really no way for me to get that number to know what would be health.
And the liability addition, is that just for term that was not included
Yes, just
before?
wording.
Thank you.
Squire Tanner.
Am I correct in saying that the life insurance company that is here in this county and city exempt?
I don't know that. They have a separate tax rate that we approved along with our other rates. No, I don't know. This would be an insurance on a life policy.
That's
for an
correct.
individual, and it's only year 1, and you'll see that in section 2.
Okay.
So I don't believe that is the case.
I'm not sure. I thought all domiciled in a county or a city that was exempt from that, but I absolutely may be wrong.
Now, we are,
Which would only be one here in that case. If that's true.
It's the only way we are able to have this policy is because we have an underwriting insurance agency in this county.
No, it ain't the agency's company. It might be.
Squire Blackburn.
I just want to add, based on the proficiency rating in the fire departments, it also affects the local individual's insurance. So if you have a truck that is not up to standard with I don't know all the
ISO
There are-
rating.
Yeah, the
there are certain
ISO rating.
Requirements for ISO rating. as far
So if
as
you don't have the
what has
the
to-
proper ISO rating on equipment that's in that area, it affects all the insurance rates in that area. Is that correct?
Correct. The ISO rating does, from my understanding, sets all the insurance rates. for-
So keeping you guys at the top of the ISO rating helps all the people in the county get a better policy at a lower price.
Yeah, that's our main goal. Most of the stuff we do is to protect the property and the lives of the community, but also to try to make sure that we're doing everything we can to maintain the best ISO rating we can to help minimize that impact on the community as well.
Thank you.
Chief, thank you. Amy, thank you. Amy, you have another one for us.
I wanted to add one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Chief called me the other night. I had a fire at a property, and I was unaware until he called me. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you all did. It's not a total loss. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So this next agenda item is just an updated engagement letter for our audit. When Charles T. Mitchell started looking at last year's audit, which was performed by the state, they realized that we had all of that COVID money, which requires a single audit. So it'll either be a single audit or an examination, probably an examination. So this is just to update the engagement letter that you already authorized.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Madam Treasurer, thank you again for being with us. Do you know what the projected expense, I guess, for this audit that includes the updated engagement terms?
Yes, it's the next to the last page of this engagement letter.
Yeah, I missed it somehow.
And it's hidden. It feels like
I
it's
did.
hidden. There's a lot in there.
There was a lot in there, and I
It's
swear.
20,000 to 22,000,
And you
that
said
is
it's the
an
next to last
estimate.
page? I see it now. I swear I read right over that. 20 to 22.
And that hasn't changed since the last engagement letter.
Thank you.
Squire Tanner.
This is for county attorney. Do we need to rescind the other one?
Is this an amendment?
No, this is a new one.
Because of the ARPA funds, correct?
Yes. He, in his email, he says it's an updated engagement letter.
I would think to make it clean, to rescind the prior engagement letter, or I'd have to look to see the prior engagement letter, what the terms of, I guess, canceling that agreement would be, and then, I guess, going into this new one as a way to make it more clean would probably be the best way to go. I'd have to go back and look at the terms of that letter, though.
We could just do that as a motion, or we rescind the original and adopt the current.
That'd be fine.
Thank you. Moving on. Treasurer's report.
We have revenue and expenses as of November 3rd. I do want to point out on page 2 of the revenue report, reimbursements, which is account 0147270000. The year-to-date revenue in that is $100,108.46. That is our FEMA reimbursement from the windstorm damage from March. So I just wanted to let you know we are in receipt of that. I will amend that into our budget. And I just have a big thanks to Amy Kurtzinger at the Road Department, who put so many hours into this and compiling all the information that FEMA requires. It's a lot of work. We probably will have a small management fee coming from FEMA as well for the time that we spend on this as well.
Thank you.
Any questions? Amy, thank you. Next, I believe we have payment of claims. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And this is going to go to the air because, Amy, this may be, Madam Treasurer, may be a question for you to respond to. On page 2, tab 15, This is 0151400303 EMS Services, and that is dated 4/1/23 of 6/30/23. So that's in the last fiscal year. So I'm wondering, that's FY '22, why we're just receiving the bill in November, and this is in the second quarter of FY '23. Was there a loss of our address, or did somebody not remember how to get a quarter of a mile across the bridge to give us this, or what happened?
We typically pay for 4 quarters each year, so this would fall into this budget year. I did have to request this bill from them.
That's what I understood. We had to request a bill. So what happens when we don't request a bill? I mean, could we get it 2 years later and have to pay it?
Well, I don't feel comfortable with that because
I
that throws the
understand.
budget year.
Yes, it
off.
does.
So I
And that's what this has done.
typically reach out to them.
So how
Well,
do
we had talked about that.
address this?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Max, what can we put in place so this doesn't happen? Or to Squire Sebastian's point, somebody doesn't send us a bill and then they send it 2 years later. I mean, can we put, I thought didn't we discuss changes? We've talked about it.
We have talked about this, but I mean, this is this isn't like $40 for, hybrid spring water, And then it's just problematic to receive it so late. And the items like this can be what we called in the budget world, budget busters. Because you're budgeting for the expense somewhere else, and then now you're receiving the expense in a new year when you don't have the funds to cover it because you've allocated those for other purposes for your operation. So it's just a larger question.
No,
in the air.
it absolutely is.
It's just an air question. So, what,
Three conversations. Was there still a question to me?
There's still kind of a question, yes, right.
There was only three conversations going on.
All right, so let's recap it. Squire Sebastian's point, Amy's point. Amy had to contact somebody because we had not received a bill. And it's been since November, right?
we got the bill in November, but it was April to June services that should have been paid for at closeout of the last fiscal year. Closeout typically happens in July. You usually have a hard closeout in the books. We are now dealing with the closeout. We're just dealing with it late.
Well,
That's all.
This one, just to be clear, this one we would not have paid until this budget year because, it's paying for a quarter. June 30th is the end date, so they're not going to bill us until the new budget year. So, it's normal for this to roll over into the new budget year. You pay for the last quarter of the year after it's reconciled, and they billed us. Now, it is late to us. They should have billed us probably by the end of July.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately the question is, can we put something
Setting
somewhere?
forth agreements and contracts that bills will be submitted within X amount of days.
I already thought that was in there for timely payment.
That would be the proper mechanism.
And so then what happens in a scenario that somebody doesn't provide a bill and we say we're not going to pay it? I'm just kind of trying to be devil's advocate.
How that tends to play out is that you get litigating that issue in the court.
Oh, yes. I think Squire Tracy's first, it's Squire
Yes,
Tracy.
she is. Maybe a quick question. So when dealing with, to just piggyback off her, when dealing with budgeting, obviously we have a number that we put in. We're expecting to bill, I get the whole quarter, they're running a quarter late, we got to pay for that. So in regards to the county budgeting, was this the number that was budgeted? And if not, what's the increase on this number?
So let's look at the expense report. It's part of the treasurer's report. So we can know. Okay, it is on page 4 of the expense report. So for this one, the ambulance service, which is account 0151400303. We budgeted $600,000. So this bill fits within the budget.
Correct. I just,
This one does.
exactly. We've got numbers that we're trying to budget it. So there's no surprise, there's nothing like that, the 142. So, obviously, if it would have came in higher, you would have hoped for some communication, da-da-da-da-da.
And we are in the process of that with another bill that we've received.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as Amy pointed out, actually, since there's always gonna be a rollover, so this is gonna fit in the budget because the fourth quarter one's gonna come in 2004 or 5 budget, not in this. So it's a wash technically. And if you're operating in this, and this is just a statement, if we're drawing interest on it, we're getting 2 or 3 months extra interest on $142,000, which ain't bad. If the city wants to hold on to it, they can hold on to it all year, look to me like.
And
We'd
these
be
are
better off.
two, the 911 and ambulance, those are two that I'm keeping track of, and I know what's out there, and I'm in communication with the city to make sure that,
Don't call them anymore if they want to call the bill.
Squire Blackburn.
I was looking at the general charity and welfare lines. Are these payments, do they get them upon request, or are they timed out by quarter?
quarter.
Okay, because I see some of them have 1 of 4 and some of them have 2 of 4. And I know last year, we had one agency in particular that was in a financial hardship, and they hadn't received any of their payments going into the middle of the third quarter. So I want to make sure that we don't let that happen again to those folks.
If it's a small, if we've approved a small amount, we let them know one time, but anything over, and I can't remember what threshold I used, I want to say it was 500 or 1,000. Amy, do you remember what amount I used for the outside agency request? Well, anyway, but the larger ones, we have them requested quarterly, and also with a report saying what they're using the money for. If they get behind in that, we reach out to them and say, hey, you haven't submitted your request. So.
I'm just trying to verify, because I reached out to them myself and was like, make sure you request this, because you may not get it unless you request it, so, okay.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. On the first page of the jail fund court bills, the last item on that page, account 03-5101-445, you got spit hoods. As I understand it, those items would be for the protection of the inmates for a variety of reasons. So those kind of items are typically covered under commissary protection. So how do we continue to determine what comes to us to pay? And I know this is a $115 expenditure.
Right.
But it typically in every bill.
Bigger conversation.
It is the larger conversation with this. And I seem to come back to it at every meeting.
Yep. I think we set up a meeting with the acting jailer and have a conversation and try to get some things figured out.
Thank you.
Squire Blackburn.
And one more thing. You know, I look at these, the bills every month, and I've noticed on streetlights, we'll have sometimes a lesser number of streetlights has a higher cost. So I'm going to take it upon myself to try to, speak with the utility companies and find out what we've got where, and if we can update them to a more cost-efficient lighting, that we can lower these bills long-term.
I think it's a great suggestion.
Me too.
Squire Tracy.
Thank you, Judge. Just one quick question. I think we all realize this is not a special meeting, but other business, was it forgotten or just?
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. Squire.
We previously discussed, sort of back to the late bill, we discussed taking an active look at all of the contracts that the city or the county has currently, especially those with the city, and there was some indication that we legally have the ability to add some clauses that state with a bill not submitted within a certain time frame will not be paid or something. Up front of that, have we been able to get a synopsis at least of all of our contracts, where we're at with those, and start reviewing?
No, I have not. So that's.
Maybe a great place to start, at least with the E911 and the contracts with the city, is to revise all of those contracts with language of that effect.
Squire Tanner.
If this is in order, I'd like to ask you to contact a friend of the court across the street and ask them to come and explain, at least to me, what they do.
Okay.
There's only 2 counties, I understand there's only 2 counties in the state of Kentucky that has a friend of the court, and we're one of them.
All right, I think
And that we don't.
We're getting off track a little bit here. I think we're still on payment of claims.
Oh, okay, I thought we were
Yeah,
got
sorry.
skipped down, go to what he was talking
Yeah,
about.
we're kind of jumping around here, so.
Okay, I was out of order.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Okay, any other questions for Kim on payment of claims?
That could come under payment of claims, go we pay that.
All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion of authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.8101F, discussion or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. Thank you.
Hey, Charlie.
back on, and we are in open session. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add other business.
Okay, second.
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Alrighty, so let's, any questions before we get to other business on the light equipment operator for the road department? Seeing none. Any on the electrical inspector for planning and zoning? Seeing none. Alrighty, we're other business. Do we have any other business? Squire Tracy.
Thank you. First one is for county attorney. Can you give us, can you give me a recorded update in regards to where we are with animal control?
And when you mean animal control, what are you specifically
Well, when
speaking?
it was brought up 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 weeks ago, you referenced that we were going to mimic the state. We're not in line with the state per KRS, and that you were going to work on that, get us in line with the state.
I can bring that in front of the next court if you would like that.
All right, thanks, great.
Go ahead. If you have a list, just go ahead and finish it. and we'll
Okay,
move
yes,
on.
sir. I think we're all aware of where we are with the broadband. I know we've got a meeting coming up on the 20th with Mr. Zing from the plant board. With that being said, I think everyone's commitment on the court is 1,900 plus homes that are unserved, currently unserved. And I do think we all are aware that they are on go for 884 homes that they originally turned in for 11 zones, grant opportunities. They were awarded 7 of those for 884. That list being Northern Peaks Mill 116, Western Franklin County 594, Schweitzer 35, Ball Knob 77, Hickory Ridge 43, Nineveh Road 11, and Highway 1472 being 8. So it's a total of 884 households that they're ready and I guess anxious to get started. So
They be in the plant board.
they be in the plant board.
Okay.
So with that being said, and I think we all agree that ultimately, at the end of the day, that our commitment is to 1,900 and something. And I just feel like with the support of the court, a letter, we can knock out 884 of these. And then we're focusing on 1,000 and we're moving ahead. We know there's going to be opportunities for more money, but I just wanted to throw it out there. I'd love to see the court go ahead and support the plant board and allow them to move forward with these 884 to get that underway.
I absolutely agree.
I absolutely agree.
I mean, I think there's a good, strong partnership that we've always enjoyed with the plant board. This continues to demonstrate that, and that shows the public that you've got a collaboration across the community that wants to see everyone be in the 21st century. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. Well, again, is it perfect?
That puts us there.
It's probably not perfect, but it's more than what we've got, and I just think it's time to go. So hopefully we can, with everyone's, I guess, wishes, maybe Mr. Zini can come in and we can talk about the ones that are, or their plans per se to put in for the ones that are unserved. But let's go ahead and get these 884 and allow them to proceed, because ultimately what they've done is they're moving. They're ready to go. They've made all the sacrifices to do it, and you know, obviously we all know they're, what I would say is kind of under attack, but for me, I think, when I think of the plant board, I think of local. Everyone says shop local, but you're talking family, you're talking friends, you're talking neighbors. They're willing to step up and put 6.5 out. So I'm in favor of moving that forward. If you, again, if it's at the court, the will of the court, if you'd write a letter supporting the plant board moving forward with their broadband project.
So then do we all, I'm just talking out loud here because I'm writing this down, so then do we want to look at, because what I don't want to do is we still have, 1,000 homes that need to be covered.
Again.
Do we want to go ahead and just get an RFP started for that to be on the next agenda? I mean,
I'm not sure that that's my,
I'm not
the
sure
way
it's
that I
mine
want to go
either.
down that road just yet. I want to have that meeting with Gary Zing before we take that path.
what's the will of the court?
Again, for me, let's get the 884. They're ready, they're ready to go on that. So ultimately, not moving, we're holding 884 homes hostage from getting broadband. If it's the will of the court to have Mr. Zine come in, then let's have him come in and let's talk about the ones that he's hopefully planning on serving the other 1,000 plus. So, or the plant board's interest, but.
And I think in collaboration with the court, those 11 applications were initially put in. 11 applications were awarded. I think now, after they have viewed the landscape and time has elapsed based on that and costs have gone up, you know, they are looking at scaling that back to the seven areas that you mentioned. And what would happen with that is to ensure that immediately work starts to put almost 900 homes and give them the opportunity for broadband services. And I think, again, you know, we see folks that work for the plant board, they're here in our community. We go to church with them, see them at, you know, Kroger ball games and other places. You know, keeping that local and people constantly asking, I'm sure everybody here around the table is getting questions about broadband increase. You know, and I'd love to see, they're poised and ready to go. I'd love to see the court continue down a path that it had set with them. But that path, as we all know, was set before costs skyrocketed. So now being able to move forward with about 900 and then trying to come up with a plan to move so that we can cover the remainder of that, I think that's what that meeting on the 20th is going to help us do, in my mind. Now, I may have a misimpression of what's going to happen on the 20th, but that's what I'm thinking now. You know, and I want to continue to partner with organizations in our community as much as we possibly can to continue to advance things that move Franklin County forward. So that's where I would be.
Well, I understand both sides of the argument, but I believe the judge is very capable of writing a letter that would not abandon the people that are left out. But I do think we need to go forward with that. I do get calls also, but the calls I get are the ones that are left out. But anyway, that it's an opportunity that can't be let go. And the other point I tried to make here, I talked long enough, I think of it. The best I remember, the governor committed last night to putting in broadband into 100% of Kentucky. If I wasn't dreaming that, and I was actually listening to the speech, that's what he said. So then, he said that. So then we can't think that he's not going to help us get money to put the rest of that in there. He will, I believe. Number two is, it's a great opportunity to start looking around for a lobbyist to make sure we get that money if we can.
Yes, sir.
And I think that needs to be, that may be not necessarily included in the letter. We're hiring a lobbyist, a plant board. You could say, do you have one plant board? Because we need all these people taken care of, not just 844.
And it's my understanding with meeting with everybody about broadband and different things, that this next round is basically for the hard-to-hit areas. That's the purpose of it. I think it's $211 million or $1 billion, whatever it is, but that's the intent of it. So the only thing they don't know yet is what the match is going to be. The federal government has not said if it's 50, 40, or 30. So that really is going to be the kind of game changer as far as this next round of money. I don't think anybody's probably doing this in one shebang. You know, it's kind of a phased deal, but it's kind of a moving target, and that's why, you know, I think everyone has the intent. We wanted to do this one time, be done, but obviously that didn't work because of pandemic and other things. So I think we're kind of moving with, I don't want to call it a game, but the rules have been moving, and they're still moving, but, you know, I would agree with you all. I'm fine with, you know, showing our support for them, moving forward with that, and then writing the best RFP we can write to get the rest of the 1,000 people as far as moving down the road. Good.
I got a question. The grant we request from DLG today, talk about funding, grant for funding the match, would that comply here? The one we just.
I thought that was a water.
No, that was.
That is water, you're right.
That was water sewer issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a different pot.
Yes, it probably is.
Judge, I was anxious to hear what Mr. Zing is going to tell us on the 20th. Last time that the plant board appeared before us, there was 1,100 homes that were going to be serviced. And then we know from some other general communications that they've cut that back to 880-something. But we haven't had a formal presentation from the whole board of what exactly that is. I want to say there's been a lot of conversation in this community and unwanted in my mind from some of our elected officials and otherwise about the plant board not being able to function in this modern climate, and I think that's bunk, to say the best. We've expressed in this court some frustration with the plant board and communication level. Hopefully we're working through that, but I do believe always that a publicly owned utility is an asset to our community, that is owned by our citizens, and when we're not happy with the leadership or the direction, we have the right to change that, and that doesn't happen with a private provider coming in that can set rates at whatever they would like them to be, and/or absorbent tap-on cost, if you will, that still haven't been defined. So I am concerned about, let's say, an RFP for any respondent to come in to provide the rest of the county. I want to have further conversation before we take any action on that, because I believe there is a couple of other alternatives that we have not explored just yet. But I do want the plant board to be the ultimate provider, however the system is built out, for the entirety of the county, because it is a fantastic asset that we own, that we get to then control how we set rates, what services we have in the future. So anyone that is buying into a narrative that's circulating around our community right now, I want that to cease. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I totally agree with that, and
Statement.
communication goes two ways. We need to be better about communicating as well. We can't put all of that on the plant board.
Squire Tracy.
Maybe for the county attorney. Mr. County Attorney, do I need to make a motion for for the court to allow the judge to write a support letter? Or personally, I think he could do it on his own, but if there needs to be a motion made, in your thoughts, if that's the will of the court?
If it's the will of the court for him to be able to write this motion, I think that can be, or him to write this letter, I think that could be done by motion or just a request from the court. Well, we just have to figure out what the will of the court is. So we would probably need some kind of motion and probably vote on it if that's what the court chooses, I guess, to do as far as moving forward.
So I would need to make a motion to amend the agenda to add that the judge...
letter of commitment.
Authorization to write a support letter to the state in regards to supporting the plant board moving forward with 884 homes of broadband, or however you all want to word that.
That sounds like a good motion to me.
Okay, there it is. So just need to let us second.
Well, we'll need that when we get into voting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha. Okay.
All right,
But I'm
any other
happy to
business?
say
I got one more, Judge.
You going?
Obviously, 5-6 months ago, I guess we brought it up, and I know that you and your staff's been working diligently on it, looking into it. But I'm gonna circle back and talk about the legalities of the P3 projects.
You beat me to it.
We've got 3 in our community, one being located at 300 Southwood Boulevard, one being 500 Merrill Street, and one being on and or around 400 East Main. I could not locate it on our local PBA website, which would be the dorm at Kentucky State University. So just the 2 that I was able to find was assessed around $75 million. And again, I think it's important that people understand these are privately owned properties that are being given a pass and not having to pay property tax. And the organizations and people that are affected by that it's overwhelming, per se, especially when you think about our schools, our governments. We've talked about, the fire department today and the sheriff's department today. This all has, them being given a pass has a negative effect on all of that. So, I
So
would,
is your request to look at
Absolutely.
attorney or something to look into this? I mean, I'm just trying to figure where you're going.
well, that would fall under your purview of professional services,
Right.
I would think.
But I want everybody's input if
Yeah,
that's the
I
road
would
we're going
just,
down.
yeah, I would love to see, you go in that direction of finding someone, a professional, a legal professional, that looks at this and can come back and tell us if, yay, that it's not illegal, or it's
Okay.
illegal.
Okay.
So,
All right, Wisdom, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, Judge Squire Tracy beat me to the punch on this one. I was going to bring this back up as well. Again, we have multiple projects in the community that are privately owned. The land is privately owned, the building's privately owned, and it's no different than any other privately owned institution in this community that's leased to the state or otherwise for purposes of their operations. I'm aware that the P3 process has physically changed their operations in the last couple of years, in part because of my request at a previous role, where land ownership is retained by the public entity on all of these projects currently and going forward, to exempt them from property tax, whereby the property, the building that's built upon it is a leasehold and leased back to the public entity. But that's not the instance with these three properties, and they should be taxable. And I've been told that the only reason they weren't taxed was per word from the former governor's office. So I'd like to ask specifically if our county attorney could bring back to this full body a process to legally challenge the taxable base of those properties. I understand it may include a petition to our PVA, but it also may include another legal route to the state. So I would like for us to have a synopsis as a whole body maybe of what process we could explore, because I do believe that is likely going to be engaging an outside
Yeah, I mean, I think
external attorney.
ultimately, and no disrespect, and I want Max to comment on this, but for me, we need to find the attorney who specializes in
Yeah.
PPP. You know, to me, that's the next route, because we don't know. Max, you want to comment on that at all?
I wouldn't object to that, finding an attorney who specializes in this area and moving forward with a professional services
Okay,
contract on that.
okay, I'll look into that. Squire Sebastian, you had your hand up, I believe.
I did, but Squire Tracy, do you have more items?
no, I was just gonna circle back and say, I'm not sure, again, not to throw anything at the county attorney, but I didn't feel like that was probably your purview, your expertise, so I was.
No disrespect.
Yeah, no disrespect.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to circle back on where our online rollout of forms, et cetera, is with Kentucky.gov. I hadn't heard anything for quite some time, so
Okay.
could somebody talk to us about the realm of that? I know I brought that a while back, and
Yeah.
things are rolling out, so
Yep.
I'd just like to know officially where we are.
So we're still rolling. We just started last week with being able to take all of our payments from our website. They just got all that built in. So that's where we are now, and then everything is in a phase. So most of the generic forms are available now, and then they're working on he's got, well, not he, but that department has 150 forms.
So when you say generic forms, give me an example.
Like some that get used the most, the ones that people log into the very most. He gave them the first 4 or 5 forms to be built. Gosh, it's been a couple of months ago.
Job applications are on there too, correct?
So the job applications are all part of our Paycor system. So
Okay.
that's a little bit different deal because that's all of our payroll stuff. But you look dissatisfied, but
No, I'm just asking
Yeah,
where we are in the
So that's
process.
where we are.
I'm Trying to understand, this has been a
Yeah.
while, and we just haven't had an update,
Yeah, no,
so,
so we
if
just went-
we're now taking payments, that's a great thing.
yeah, and we just went live with that. That had to go through quite a bit of process because we had to go through their corporate once we went live, and that happened, I think, on Wednesday of last week. So it was either Wednesday or Thursday. So,
And then you said generic forms, and I asked for an example.
Yeah,
Give me
like-
an example of
like-
what you're talking about,
like
just
a
so I
building
understand.
permit.
Sorry?
Building permit.
Building permit.
Yeah. Those types of things that get the most traffic in this building.
So if we were looking at this as an overall project, that's 100% project, are we 40% there? 60? Just to understand.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look, really, because the payment processing side of it has been really our biggest.
Laborious.
That's been our biggest goal.
Mhm.
And so now that that's finally hot and live, well, I can go back and circle around and see where we're at on the other stuff.
Okay, that'd be great.
Could I ask, maybe by next court, you make a little presentation and figure out where we are, because I know it's kind of broken down into two things. It's P and Z, and then it's going to be occupational tax. So we can kind of figure out who, what, where.
It's gonna be, well, right now, because of the code enforcement, we're tying that stuff in too. You know, so we kind of dropped back and gave them an extra thing, because we wanted the code enforcement officer to be able to, you know, issue citations and things like that out in the field.
Yep.
And so that all of that went live as well. So that kind of, you know, we kind of dropped back the punt and built that stuff to help get it in Richard's hands as soon as possible. And so now we got to circle back around to some of this other stuff where we were originally starting.
So maybe we could figure out where we are and maybe what the ultimate date is to be 100% or something like that, just so we know.
Yeah.
Just so we can keep everybody informed, and the key thing is making sure the public knows that
Right.
they don't have to come down and request a form.
Yeah.
They can do it all
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
So the more we can inform sitting here at these meetings, the better off we all are.
Absolutely.
And it just helps our walking around.
Yeah, I'd
knowledge
like to
too.
bring in Anna, who's been working on
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
maybe John, and let them talk about it a little bit. 'Cause
John
they
would be
can
great.
give you- Yeah, they can give you a lot better information than
Thank
me
you
as
so
far as
much.
like, because where they are when it comes to developing the actual things, I don't really know that until they go, oh, hey, here's this.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
they would be a lot better at answering that stuff than me.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything, other business? Seeing nothing, we're going to keep moving. We're going to roll right into the voting session then, if everybody's good. Clerk, please call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Here?
Squire Dyke, Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Dykus.
Here.
Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Tanner.
Here.
Squire Wisman.
Present.
Judge Mueller.
Present. Thank you, clerk. Authorization for approval of minutes from regular meeting of October 26, 2023.
I'll make the motion with the understanding that we're going to go back and change page 2, the last paragraph, about the second reading to enable the court another course of action on that separate motion.
Perfect. And just remind the clerk, we all turn our mics on since we're going to roll through this.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Authorization to approve surplus vehicles for trading purposes and/or gov deals auction for the sheriff's department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve agreement between Napier Counseling, Inc. and Franklin County Regional Jail for morale therapy program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. This next agenda item is tabled until our next meeting. Next agenda item is authorization to approve resolution authorizing the filing of an application to the Kentucky Energy Environmental Cabinet Division of Water for Section 319H Grant Program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the filing of an application to Kentucky Department for Local Government, Government Resources Accelerated Needed Transformation Grant Program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Second reading and approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 30 Administrative Code, 30.076 Holiday of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances to add language under subsection B related to the fire department personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. This is the first reading of ordinance amending Chapter 30 Administrative Code 30.153 Order of Business of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances to add language under subsection A relating to the suspension of rules. No vote will be taken today. That will be second reading next agenda. Next, first reading of ordinance amending Chapter 30 Administrative Code 30.096 of Franklin County Code of Ordinances to remove and add language under subsection A, B, C, and adding D relating to the employee evaluation. No vote will be taken today. It will be on our second reading next agenda. Next one we covered, that's been read into. Next one is first reading of ordinance amending ordinance.
Judge, question, does that need to be read into the record formally in our voting meeting?
I don't believe so, but let's ask county attorney.
We need to change the wording on it, whatever happens. It's not an ordinance.
Correct, it's not an ordinance, it just needed to be read to the record
Yeah.
for it to be reflected in the minutes of what occurred.
And you read it previously?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, next one's first reading of ordinance amending ordinance number 16 of 2006, series relating to the of the payment and license fees of insurance companies engaged in the business of insurance within Franklin County, Kentucky for the health, education, safety, welfare, convenience for the inhabitants of Franklin County, Kentucky pursuant to KRS 67.083 and 91A.080. No vote will be taken. That will be on next agenda. Authorization to approve the amended engagement letter with Charles T. Mitchell for the year ending June 30th, 2023 for auditing services.
So moved.
Judge, can we amend that to also read before we approve it, to rescind the previous engagement letter?
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Squire. Authorization to receive treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Payment of claims. Is there a motion to deny any payment of claims? No, let the record reflect, claims are to be paid. Authorization to hire Harry Smith as light equipment operator / truck driver.
So moved.
Doodle page.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to hire Sonny Robertson as our electrical inspector.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Candy?
All those opposed say nay. Squire.
Judge, I make a motion to amend the agenda to add authorization for the county judge executive to write a letter of support for the plant board to move forward with their most current and revised broadband plan that gives access to 884 homes.
Second.
I'd like to amend that and say approximately 800.
Approximately 884 homes.
She did all that?
Yeah.
And I can get with it.
Okay, just making sure. All right, we had a first and a second, correct? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Could be going that.
Motion passes.
He needs to, now you need,
So I need
you
to-
amended the agenda, now you have to have the option to do it.
Yep.
Just read it again without amending the agenda.
You move to.
I move to add authorization for the county judge executive to write a letter of support for the Frankfurt Plant Board to move forward with their most current and revised broadband plan that would give approximately 884 homes access to broadband.
So I'll second.
Motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you, Squire. Anything else? We're done. Authorization to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you, Gordon.